So I made 2 videos already discussing the merits of Christianity and tearing atheists to absolute shreds in the process. One of them I made because someone signed up to debate me and then backed out. Well, someone else signed up to debate me after I made that second video, and he too backed out of the debate, but not for the same reasons as the last guy. Oh no, he quickly realized once I gave him even a little scrutiny that he cannot win this debate, and he converted back to Christianity. What's up guys, Acerthorn here, and this is my story of how I converted someone to Christianity just by asking them one question. So once I posted the second video laying out all the evidence that I had built up in anticipation of that debate before my opponent unceremoniously and rudely backed out of it, another person who goes by the alias Dyne posted a comment on that video, offering to step up and debate me in that guy's stead. I happily accepted and just told him to fill out the form to debate me, like I ask of everyone who wants to debate me on this channel. He did, and we began talking on Discord. Now, whenever I do a debate, I always like to get a quick feel for my opponent's positions. After all, they already know my position just by watching the video they're debating me on. So asking them to present their case to me before the debate puts us on a level playing field. In his application to debate me, one of the questions he answered was to give a brief, one-sentence explanation of each of his main arguments that he intended to bring up in the debate. One of the arguments he declared was, "I do not believe the Bible is an entirely fictitious book. I just believe that it needs to be taken into historiographical context," whatever that means. So as we began preparing for the debate, as you can see here, on May 28th, 2026, I asked him if the Bible isn't completely fictitious, what exactly is it reliable to prove? For example, does he concede that it is admissible to prove the non-miraculous things that it claims, such as Jesus being born in Bethlehem, or the people casting lots for his clothes once he's hanging on the cross? He replied and said no, the Bible wasn't a reliable record of events by itself, unless the events it proclaims are also attested to by secular sources. Gee, does that sound familiar? It's the classic prove it without using the Bible bullshit non-argument I've heard countless times before. Yeah, I've never been given a good reason why the Bible isn't reliable as evidence. And when I asked Dyne to justify that, he got back to me the next day, May 29th, 2026, and explained that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't, for the life of him, think of an actually good reason to discredit the Bible in its entirety. He previously said the Bible was only valid evidence if it could be corroborated by other secular sources, but that just raises the question, why? Why can't the Bible serve as valid eyewitness accounts in its own right? Well, after actually thinking about it objectively, he ultimately realized he couldn't possibly come up with any actually good reason, and so he converted back to Christ right then and there. He asked to speak to me on voice, and so we spoke for a good half hour. I recorded the call, and at the end, I told him I was recording and he gave me permission to upload it. So that's what I will do. By joining the channel at only $1 a month, you can hear the unredacted and unedited call between him and me, where I also provide him with a good chunk of the evidence that I was going to present at the debate, including the reliability of the Gospels, as well as effectively discrediting all of the biblical scholars who claim that the earliest of the Gospels was written after 70 AD, a common criticism that skeptics will often use to discredit the Gospels. But let's be real here, none of you are actually going to look at it. Even if the video was available for free, 99.9999% of you would just refuse to even look at the evidence at all. Because that's just what you do. You say that theists hold the burden of proof? Cool. Well, we have evidence. Evidence in abundance. Evidence that would convince nearly anyone of anything else, as long as it isn't an infinitely extraordinary claim. And yet, all too often, when evidence is offered to you on a silver platter, you refuse to even look at it. And then you still proceed to sit there with your heads up your asses and proclaim from the rooftops that Christians have no evidence to back up our claims, even though we do and you just didn't look at it. Take, for instance, timestamp 205 to 230 of this video on TikTok. Just a heads up, this is actually part 3 in a 4-part series, so I'll be providing links to all 4 parts in the description. Anyway, this arrogant, entitled motherfucker who goes by the name Goddless Gardner openly admits that he isn't even going to check the evidence provided simply because...
Yeah, you flashed a bunch of little tiny text up on a screen and then showed me a bunch of Christian books. Sorry, I think that they might have a little bit of a bias, and I'm not going to read those.
Think about what he just said. I think that they might have a little bit of a bias. That's 3 qualifications that water down the strength of his objection to the point of virtual non-existence, and yet he still feels justified in dismissing the evidence entirely out of hand without even looking at it. What do you want? An atheist who still definitively admits that Jesus rose from the dead? Who in their right mind is going to admit to that and still be an atheist? I can get really close to that. I can show you examples of people such as C.S. Lewis or Josh McDowell, and now most recently Dyne, who started out as atheists who thought Christians were idiots for believing in a sky daddy. But as they did research, they ultimately concluded that the evidence was incontrovertible. But then they converted to Christianity, which, in your opinion, retroactively makes all of their pre-conversion research biased and therefore not worth even looking at. I can also show you non-Christian sources which attest to individual elements of the Christian claim, such as a non-Christian source saying that the apostles were martyred for their beliefs, and another non-Christian source showing that Jesus' tomb was found empty, and another independent source here and another independent source there. But alas, because there's no one singular non-Christian source that definitively proves all of the elements all in one go, that apparently doesn't count for you. Alternatively, just a few short weeks ago, I came across a delusional asshole on TikTok who once again insisted that there was no evidence that the Gospels were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John respectively. So when I linked him to this video, to debunk him, he just replied and said, "I'm not watching a YouTube video." Oh my fucking god, you people are insufferable! Look, if you absolutely refuse to be convinced, why don't you just say that? I mean, it's your everlasting soul, so it's not like it's anything important. But why do you have to be so insufferable as to insist there's zero evidence, while simultaneously refusing to even look at the evidence that's offered to you, and then act like we're the ones believing in some imaginary sky daddy despite no evidence? At that point, you're the ones who are denying reality itself, not us. Well, in any event, I at least managed to bring Dyne back to Christ. Maybe. Just maybe. That was all God wanted when he motivated me to make that video in the first place. I'm still gonna leave it up though. So Dyne, if you're watching, I'd like you to go and read these scriptures, as they were literally written for people exactly like you. Born and raised Christian, but drifted away from the faith due to skepticism, but ultimately returned when you saw the evidence. Meanwhile, I'm still taking applications to debate me on live stream on the merits of Christianity. However, I'm going to update the application to include 2 new questions. First, asking you to explain what exactly your position is regarding the Bible's credibility and reliability, and another question asking you to explain, with specific examples, why you feel that way. I feel this is the best way to get the most common controversies out of the way and hopefully get to the heart of what we actually disagree on. So that is my 3rd video on the topic of whether Jesus rose from the dead. I hope you all enjoyed it. I should be coming out with the next Dragon Ball dissection soon. I've already finished watching the episodes, so now I just need to write the script. In the meantime, however, I am Acerthorn, and I will see you guys later.